Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I'm in this 2018 Peugeot 3008. I know I've said this before, but I'm not a big French car fan. But I have always liked the Mark I 3008. That model ran from 2009 until 2016. Over the years I've bought and sold dozens of them, and secretly I've always kind of rated them. I like the driving position, the cosseted interior, and the split opening tailgate like a Range Rover. So when this new generation 3008 landed on my forecourt yesterday, I thought, I've got to do a video with that, just to see how it compares really. This Mark II 3008's been around since late 2016, and they're very popular cars. I've been driving around in this all morning and I've spotted lots of others. With this Mark II model, you can tell that Peugeot have tried to ditch the MPV styling of the Mark I. This one's much more SUV-like. I like it. The lines are really sharp, it looks modern and crisp, there's a bit of chrome but not too much. It just works. I have to admit, Peugeot are making some great looking cars these days, and this 3008 is no exception. Bear in mind this is the sporty GT line model, so they don't all look quite as good as this one. But still, a big improvement over the Mark I, which was a bit blobby around the edges. From all angles, this is a really nice design. There are some cars that I take out and I really struggle to find a nice angle to get a good photograph. This isn't one of those. I just think this is way more interesting than a Nissan Qashqai, which I guess is the Peugeot 3008's main rival. Sadly though, I've spotted straight away this doesn't have the split folding tailgate like the Mark I, which I think is a mistake. They're really handy, those. You know, as a family car you can use that ledge to rest your shopping on it, or place one of your kids while you're doing up the shoelaces, that sort of thing. It's just really handy. Anyway, it's gone. Moving inside the 3008 then, it's genuinely, well, I was shocked. It's excellent. If you blindfolded me or, you know, just covered up the Peugeot badge, that might be easier thinking about it, you would think you were in a premium car. I love the choice of materials they've used, and I love this floating dash. It's just really clever. You can never accuse this car of being dull. Everything you look at and touch and press is just really interesting. I love the digital gauge cluster, that's nice and futuristic. It does take a few seconds though to get used to the rev counter going anti-clockwise, not clockwise. But all modern Peugeots are like that. You get some storage here for your phone or keys or sunglasses. You get 2 cup holders, a nice comfortable armrest, decent door bins, and look at this, under this centre armrest. Honestly, it's like the gateway to Narnia. You'd get lost in that. It's huge. I really like the half leather, half cloth seats. I love this cloth they've used on the doors. I'm not exaggerating now, but it really is a feast for the senses. These attractive looking buttons here control each menu on this infotainment screen. So for example, we've got audio, climate, nav, car settings, telephone, and I don't know. Peugeot apps, I think that one is. Peugeot apps. Up here too is the hazard light switch. Now in Peugeots of old, you'd have to identify where that switch is before each journey, because you just had that sinking feeling in the back of your mind that before you reach your destination, you might have to press it. But in this, I don't know, that feeling's kind of gone. Maybe it's because it's so new, I guess, and only done 14,000 miles. It certainly doesn't feel flimsy or cheap. It really feels solid and well built. I love how they really put some thought into the automatic gear selector. It's a nice ergonomic design. Everything's really quite quirky, and I like that. I've said this before, but the French should really play off their quirkiness more often. It's the main reason you'd buy something French over something boring Japanese or German. One thing I'm not a big fan of though is the tiny steering wheel. Not only have they made it the same shape as a 50p piece, it's also the same size. It's weird. An odd steering wheel might be fine in a concept car at the Geneva Motor Show, but on the A555 in rush hour, not so much. Anyway, back to the good bits. The driving position's superb, visibility is very good. These big door mirrors provide lots of visibility. They've also got a blind spot assist. Now, blind spot assist is one of those features that 20 years ago you'd have thought, that's just a fad, that'll never catch on. But it's really handy. So much so that nowadays, if you get in something without blind spot monitoring, I feel quite vulnerable. The seats are very comfortable. They're a little bit on the firm side, but I imagine they'll give with some miles. They're nicely supportive though down the sides. It's all really positive so far. Up here you've got this infotainment screen which controls everything. The quality of the display is very good. One thing which isn't very good though is the quality of the reverse camera and the 360 camera. It's like something you'd expect from a 2012 car, not a 2018 one. The other slightly disappointing thing is it's all touchscreen. Now, that can be quite distracting whilst you're trying to keep your eyes on the road. What they should have done with this instead is put some sort of control pad here or dial that you could control that from here without taking your eyes off the road. That would have been better. It comes with everything that you'd expect from a modern car though. Sat-nav, reverse camera, Bluetooth audio, cruise control. Doesn't have a pan roof though, but I imagine that's an option. Overall, the more time I spend with this, it's just a really easy car to get along with. The interior space is pretty good. You got plenty of legroom, plenty of headroom, plenty of elbow room, and it's the same story back there. In the back, the windows are nice and big, so you're not claustrophobic like you would be in a Duke or a CHR. There's plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom. And not only have you got 2 ISOFIX points back there, you've also got one up front at the passenger seat. You can tell this car's been made with families in mind. And it scored well on its safety test at Euro NCAP. Moving back to the boot, there's also an impressive amount of space back there too. You get 520 litres of cargo space. You also get a false floor back there so you can stash away things that you don't use every day. With this generation of 3008, there were lots of engines to choose from. There were a few petrols, diesels, and even a couple of hybrids. Under the bonnet of this particular model is a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine. In all honesty though, this is the everyman choice. It's probably the one I'd go for. 180 horsepower, 0 to 62 in 8 seconds, top speed of 136 miles an hour, and it'll do 35 miles per gallon round town and just over 50 on a run. So it's quite a sensible car to run. The road tax here in the UK is only £180 a year, so that isn't expensive either. And the fuel tank is 53 litres, so it won't break the bank to fill it. You could go for a diesel, but I wouldn't recommend that unless you do lots of motorway trips. You'll just end up with clogged DPFs and EGRs. There's also a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine, but I'd avoid that one. Don't get me wrong, it's fine in smaller cars, but you're asking an awful lot from a small engine to pull around such a big car like this, especially when you've got 4 passengers in it. They're available as 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, and they all come with this terrain response system, a bit like you'd find on a Land Rover. Nobody will probably use it, but it is quite cool to play around with. You've got snow mode, one there with a picture of a cactus, and various other settings. You could buy the 3008 with either a manual gearbox or an automatic. Now the one I'm in today is called an EAT8, which as you might guess has got an 8-speed gearbox, and it does a pretty good job. The gear changes are smooth and seamless. Once you've selected drive, you just needn't worry about it ever again. It isn't jerky or hesitant like some French auto boxes are. It's pretty good. You could go for a manual box, but in typical Peugeot fashion it'll probably have a very high clutch. So high in fact, you'll probably end up kneeing yourself in the chin whilst you're trying to change gear. That's often the case. Having driven this now, if I wanted one of these cars personally, I would seek out one with a proper auto box. I like how it kind of guides you into your bay when you're reversing. In most cars you either get a 360 camera or a reverse camera. On this, you got both at the same time, which is ideal. There is no excuse now for poor parking. In terms of what it's like to drive, then I'm not going to insult your intelligence or waste your time talking about the feel through the steering wheel whilst we're going through corners or any of that sort of stuff. Chances are if you're here watching this video because you're thinking about buying a 3008, you really won't care about that sort of thing. So instead, what I'll tell you about the drive of the 3008 is that everything's really nice, really easy, really light. All of the controls are easy to reach, the steering is nice and light, visibility is good. There is nothing negative to tell you about it. The brakes work fine, there's enough power to get you out of any trouble. There's really nothing bad to say. Now used prices here in the UK start at around £10,500. I found one on Auto Trader this morning at CNC Cars, which is just around the corner from me actually. And that one's done, I think, 140,000 miles, so it is a bit up there. For one like this is a late 2018 GT line automatic with that 1.6 litre engine. It's only done 14,000 miles. This will set you back around 23 grand. If you're thinking about buying one, make sure it's got full service history, preferably full main dealer history. With modern cars like this, main dealers as part of the service package will do things like software updates, and that's really important nowadays. Well, I think that's about it, and I'm pleased to say I like this new 3008 as much as I like the Mark 1s. It's a really nice improvement on the Mark 1. I think it could have been better with a split tailgate, but that might just be me. But would I buy one with my own money? It's hard to imagine a scenario when I'd need a car like this, to be honest. But if I did, then yeah, I don't see why not. Saying that, I'd probably be tempted with a high mileage Lexus NX or Honda HR-V. But overall, I'm really impressed with the 3008. I like it. So, thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave the link below. And yeah, cheers guys. See you next time.